So I had the opportunity to talk to a gentleman named John Schuermann, who's working on a film project that's kind of being crowdfunded right now. And I found out that Matt Dillahunty of the Atheist Experience and David Smalley of Dogma Debate were sort of involved as well. And I was curious. So for just a second, I asked John to join me here on Google. John, how's it going, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Seth. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Well, tell me what this project is. It's a documentary. Is it a work of fiction? Is it a feature film? What is it?
It's a feature film. It's a secularly themed feature film called The Gospel According to Stephenson. There have been plenty of secular themed documentaries. I just saw an excellent one not too long ago called the Honest Liar, an Honest Liar about James Randi. That was terrific. But there isn't much in the way of fictional films that have secular themes, so that's what I'm trying to change here. So it's a fictional film, feature film.
So, I mean, why the involvement from secular people? Is there a sort of a subtext to it, I'm guessing? There's some sort of a rationalist undertone to all the fantasy on the surface kind of thing?
Yeah, exactly. It's I often use the Star Trek analogy. Star Trek often dealt with secular themed material. There was never any supernatural in that series. But it often had dealt with fantastical subject matter, right? Spaceships and ray guns and monsters and all these things. But so I've kind of used this whole vampire film obsession thing that's been going on since the Twilight, well, since forever, but more recently with Twilight and True Blood and all that, as a launching point for what appears to be supernatural subject matter. So we have this real life vampire who wakes up after 117 years. He's been hibernating. We have naturalistic explanations for everything that this person can do. And he pretends that as if he's supernatural and he can grant people eternal life and immortality and all of these things. So the film takes kind of a skeptical standpoint and naturalistic worldview to kind of approach this subject matter in terms of scientifically what's going on. It may appear to be supernatural. There's this being who's hundreds of years old and who seems to be able to impart these qualities to other people. But is that a supernatural event, or is that something we just need to figure out and understand? And so that's where the pro-secular themes come into it. And we also have this whole religious satire, because this same character, his name is Stephenson. Again, the name of the film is The Gospel According to Stephenson. Stephenson starts his own religion. So I kind of build in this kind of social satire of, just like Scientology and some of these religious cults that kind of come out of nowhere and all of a sudden develop thousands and thousands of followers. Why is this idea that this being who can prove that he's hundreds of years old could convince people that he's truly immortal and try to get people to follow him? He says, I can offer eternal life guaranteed. And his whole gospel message is only a leaflet. It's only 2 pages long. So it isn't a big, long book to read. And basically it says, just join me and I'll give you immortality. And the last thing I'll kind of throw out here is the hero of the film is the skeptical cop who just doesn't buy any of this supernatural stuff and is trying to get to the bottom of it by using the scientific method, figuring what's going on, investigating it. And he comes up against his fundamentalist chief of police who's absolutely convinced that these creatures are from Satan and they're evil. And that's where the central conflict of the story kind of comes from.
So you got Vampire Jesus, essentially.
Yeah, that's a good vampire evangelist. Andrea Meyer from the Free Thought Film Festival. She coined that term, and I thought it was perfect. And I don't know if you've seen the trailer. There's vampire evangelists going around door to door, spreading the good news, handing out religious tracts, and asking people if they want to be immortal. And so we're having some fun with that. There's also a vampire street preacher who's pounding a street corner pulpit, and all this is in the trailer. We have a proof of concept trailer that's floating around right now.
So, I mean, not to be that guy, but tell me this is more than just pretty people pouting and sneering, which is what vampire films of the past 15 years have been.
Oh, yeah.
It just makes me crazy, John.
Well, good, because then this is, I often ask this when I do presentations. They say, who here loves vampire movies? And the hands will go up. And who here absolutely hates them because it's been done to death? And the hands go up. And I say, well, this movie is for both of you. Because the Stephenson character, after he wakes up in our modern times, he starts learning about our culture by absorbing and watching every vampire movie ever made. He's reading Stephen King, he's reading Anne Rice, he's watching the Twilight movies. And so he's able to take and learn about the pop culture perception of vampires and use that to his advantage. So he can play the glamorous vampire, he can play the evil one, whatever is suitable to his cause in the moment. So we kind of established that Stephenson is kind of this master manipulator. That's where the religious angle comes in too. He's going to prey on people's preconceptions, their fears, their worldviews, in order to try to grow his numbers. And if at the moment it means appealing to the Twilight crowd, and that's in the trailer, you can see that clearly, he's going to try to appeal to the Twilight crowd. If he's going to mess with people's heads with the religious angle, he's going to do that. So he's going to use whatever he can to grow his numbers. And again, we have the skeptical cop who's the hero, who's fighting Stephenson through this whole thing, who's kind of saying, wait a second, I don't think this guy really is supernatural. I don't think he really is immortal or can live forever.
Now, I did see the trailer. And what's your budget on this thing? And what's your goal? You're still fundraising, is that right?
Yeah, the budget, we're trying to do this in Colorado Springs. We have a decent film industry here in Colorado. My brother just got done with a film called The Creep Behind the Camera that got a wide release. And the budget, we're in the $200,000 to $300,000 range. I'm hoping that the proof of concept trailer shows that we can do really good production values and good performances. So right now we're in this crowdfunding thing. We're raising pre-production money to get all the shots planned out and make sure that once we do actually shoot this thing, it's smooth. Because the key to a low budget film is you want to do as much prep as possible. Because so you don't have $1.5 million, even something like Whiplash, which was brilliant. Shot that in 17 days, but they planned out every single shot and angle and edit and all before they even shot it. So that's where we are right now to make sure once we do go into shooting, we have what we need. And we just got Tony Todd on as one of our co-leads who play the police chief Dobson, the fundamentalist. So Tony Todd's got quite a following. He just got signed on to do The Flash.
Well, if I'm pitching this to a skeptical audience, right? They want to be a part of something that's not just. I mean, there's a shit ton of people out there making a film, and so
Right.
I want to get to fully disclose. John actually was on the radio with me a few months ago, wasn't it? We were talking Star Trek, and you've got this near savant level recall of classic Trek episodes. We were talking about Star Trek for some reason on the radio.
Yeah,
And,
we were doing your religions.
I became aware of your work. Now, give me your resume you're a film music producer. You're a director. What's on your resume?
I've written and directed a few films. I've done short films. I've done some features. Most of those are back in the early 2000s. We did some Star Trek, Star Wars parodies that actually got national releases. And I've done the music scores now for about 9 different feature films. So I do all my post-production sound and mix and surround, and I do all that. And plus, I've written the scripts for a couple of features. This is not my first film directing, but as far as one that's going to have a decent budget, that goes. So you can look me up. I'm on IMDb.
Well, back to my original question, I think was, if I'm going to pitch this to the skeptical community, is there some sort of a benefit? Will this, in some way, I realize it's a work of fiction designed for entertainment primarily, but does it help us in the discussions about supernatural and superstitious thinking, do you think?
Yes, I do. I kind of say this jokingly. I say, this is the first horror movie ever made that's about confirmation bias. And that's interesting in terms of, to me anyway, in terms of we all kind of see things through these filters if we have a supernatural worldview or naturalistic worldview. And so the film is decidedly pro-skeptical in terms of its approach, in terms of let's figure out what's really going on here. Let's not make appeals to the supernatural. Let's see if we can figure out what's truly happening. And also there's, like I said, the religious satire element in terms of how do people just believe? Why do people believe the things that they do? And is this idea of a vampire religion any more ridiculous than any other claims of other religions? So from a skeptical standpoint and from a secular standpoint, I think all those themes will be explicit. But I don't want to make a film that's strictly preaching to the choir. We want to make this a wide appeal. And you mentioned Star Trek again, because we didn't speak about that. Star Trek has explicitly secular themes, but it was able to do it with subject matter that reached a wide audience. And so that's what I'm trying to do, is insert this subtext, this clear subtext in terms of supernatural, the believer versus the skeptic, and faith versus reason. All of those things I think are explicit in the script, but they're all revealed through character conflict. It's not just a documentary. So we have some intense character conflict between Sam Bowden, who's our hero, the chief, who's the fundamentalist, and the vampire character played by Matt Block, who's just brilliant. So all of those themes will become eliminated through character conflict. So I don't just stop the movie for 20 minutes and lecture the audience. It's all done through.
You won't do what Kirk Cameron did during Saving Christmas where his characters just stop for long form exposition about total crap, by the way, and everybody goes into a deep coma in the audience. I appreciate that, John. Thanks for
I want to make
this in mind.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one yet, though. I have seen Fireproof and some of the other ones.
I wouldn't subject you to it. You know, it is definitely Mystery Science Theater material, my friend. Well, I will let the viewers check the trailer out. There's a trailer of some kind and a website in place. They can go check it out. And if they like it, then they can be a part of this sort of crowdfunding thing and this endeavor to get the actual feature made. So give me your pitch and tell me where people can find the film and the opportunity to support it.
Well, okay, the website is www.supportstevensonmovie.com. And I just want to point out it's Stephenson with a PH. So it's the British spelling since it's a British vampire. So it's, www.stephenson, STEPHENSON, movie.com, supportstevensonmovie.com. We have a direct appeal, and we also have on the media portion of that site, you can see the trailers, you can see the proof of concept. And you can see some of the scenes that we've already shot to kind of give the flavor of the thing. And I think you can see we have really first quality production values. And we are in the final stages. We're 5 days away from the end, 5 days away from the end of our crowdfunding campaign. We are really close to greenlight. We're only a few $1,000s away from greenlight. So if somebody wants to contribute, want to see the start of a secular film industry, what we're trying to do is create a secular film industry that can make wide release films to compete with the Kirk Camerons of the world. I mean, the Christian filmmaking machine is insane. They're releasing stuff all the time. It's doing great box office. I'm trying to start a secular film industry to compete with that and make films that have overtly secular themes, but hopefully smart and not as painful as Saving Christmas, say.
I'll pay you $50 if I can get a walk on as the street preachers. No, I'm just kidding. No,
I'd love to have you, Matt.
I am absolutely terrified of being. I'll do in front of the camera. I much prefer behind the microphone. But I'll send everybody out to the website. I encourage everybody take a look at it, see if it's something you want to get behind. They got a few days left on their crowdfunding effort, and I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued, John, to see what you and your team come up with. Best of luck to you and yours in your endeavor. And the website, one last time, is what?
www.supportstevensonmovie.com, again with a PH instead of a V in the Stephenson. So yeah, if you can post that or whatever, that'd be great, because that's the way we're going to do it. They can see all the material there.
All right, John, all my best for the project, and we'll see what shakes, okay?
All right, very good. Seth, thanks for your time today. I really appreciate it.
It's a real pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks.